Now, where we at, you wanna go to 3322 drug task force? Or you wanna go to 3320 UPD?
I've got 3323.
Yeah, we'll go UPD.
There's no changes to drug task force.
Yeah, the drug task force is.
Oh, okay.
And as you're aware, with the drug task force, we had a little pickup along the year with our grant situation. And that has been freed up and we're good to go to get that. So the money is starting to come back in on the drug task force.
Okay.
Again, 3323 is uniform patrol, criminal investigations, and court services. The salaries with a 2.5% increase. Temporary employees was increased from 4,636 up to 21,000, which includes the bailiffs. What was it, 2 years ago we actually increased with the board of commissioners. You guys voted to increase the salaries of the bailiffs. We had not changed since that happened. So with that increase in their salaries plus the increase in courts, that's where we come up with a 21,675. Overtime, a huge increase in overtime, primarily because of being shorthanded on the road. Currently we're about 12, 13 short, depends on what day it is. We've got 11 openings right now with the office. We've got one on light duty, one on medical leave, and then I've got one guy gone to serve the military for 9 months.
We've heard this from every other department head, but are you also having trouble hiring people, finding good
Absolutely.
people?
We will put out, we use a program that advertises our job openings. We can get probably 20 or 30 applicants. From there, we bring them in for testing and for physical agility. When we send out the invitation, we will get out of 20 or 30 that's qualified, we'll get maybe 5 or 6. And then by the time we do the testing and the physical agility, we narrow it down to 2 or 3. And by the time we finish with backgrounds, we're lucky to hire one.
It was creative. I saw, I think on Facebook, where you went over to North Georgia College and set up a job fair, or maybe it's...
It was a job fair.
So it sounds like you're getting creative in what you're doing.
We're having to try to do things a little different to get those applicants in. We are working closely with North Georgia. They run a program over there, and we are actually bringing them over here to do some firearms qualifications on our range, because once they graduate over there, they're certified. So our thought is if we can get them coming over and spend some time with us, it's going to help.
Absolutely.
Also, another area that I think has helped us tremendously has been having the training center here in Jasper.
Yes.
We are now in our second mandate academy. We just graduated 3 a few weeks ago from the last academy. We've got 4 in this academy. That gives us an opportunity to get to know those cadets that are going through from other agencies, and to help build those relationships. Out of last academy, I've already had 2 contact us from Cherokee. And looks like the one of those 2 has already turned in a notice and is coming to work for us.
That's great.
It's nice to actually pull somebody from Cherokee, since how we just lost 2 to Cherokee.
Yeah, it's
So,
going in the right direction now.
we hope to see that turn around just a little bit.
Absolutely. But that is, I wondered how that was going over there. It looks like an asset. I see the guys outside. And
having them here helps us get people in. Again, it helps us with recruiting. But they're also teaching a lot of advanced and intermediate classes. We just finished up with a week-long domestic violence class. We're scheduling another advanced domestic violence. We had a few weeks ago active shooter alert training in our schools, where we were able to bring all law enforcement together in the county to help prepare for a school shooting should we have one, or an active shooter. Next month, we scheduled our final class on Alert Level 1, which will have every mandated officer that we have trained exactly the same and working together with other law enforcement in the county, so helping us to be a little more prepared. So, and we couldn't do it without the support of having the training center here and being able to do that training. So.
Exactly. Very good.
But that's, again, I know the overtime has increased substantially in UPD, and those numbers are based on the last 3 years, and kind of where we're at today with our personnel. Of course, FICA has increased, workers' comp has increased, uniforms have increased about $9,000. One of the reasons on the uniforms is with some of our turnover. When we buy the vest, bulletproof vest for our deputies, we use a grant, and under that grant, we're required to allow those deputies, if they're going to another agency in law enforcement, to take that vest with them. Those vests cost us about $900 per vest, so they're pretty expensive. Repairs and maintenance has increased, and again, this is partially due to the age of the vehicles that we have. Currently, we're running, just to give you an idea, we've got 8 vehicles right now that's got, over 230,000 miles on it that we're still having to run. We've got 96 model Crown Vics. I'm not sure on the mileage with it, but we still have a lot of the older vehicles that we're having to keep running. And we're spending quite a bit on vehicle maintenance.
What's your total fleet count?
Total, let's see, remember offhand, remember what they were? I don't have the total number. I've got a list that I can give you. Or I can count them off if you want to, but I've got the list here. Now this first page vehicles is from 1985 to 2011 models, and then our last sheet is 2015 through 2018.
How many vehicles per year are you able to get from the SPOS proceeds?
I can tell you we didn't have any vehicles, we've not ordered any vehicles this year. We've had 6 in the last 5 years that's been wrecked or engine blowns or something that we've not replaced. I know the one that recently we had wrecked down 515 where a lady T-boned one of the deputies. We have not replaced that, and that was a 2015. And we ended up buying a $3,000 Crown Vic in its place, because we didn't have any funds in the capital outlay. We actually cut that last year.
So basically, if you're able to hire these people in these positions that are open, are they positions that would need vehicles?
Some, at some point, we're going to have to pick up a couple extra vehicles. Right now, we've got, like I said, we've got 11 positions, and that's scattered out throughout the agency. It's not just in uniform patrol.
Yeah.
But that list you did last year was, you got 10 new vehicles, didn't you?
Was it 10?
It was 10.
Yeah,
4
yeah.
trucks and.
Right.
And those were all for UPD.
Yeah.
We've got multiples that are in CID that are over 200,000 miles right
Got
now.
nearly 300,000 on the Durango that we're still limping along.
And they're in UPD.
And the ones, yes, the ones we got last year, we did.
The new ones. We try to keep our newer vehicles on the road for uniform patrol, and then those are handed down to SROs or detectives or.
Yeah.
What we might want to consider on the next loss is, of course, keep the sheriff's department in. We might want to increase it just a little to the fact that not only vehicles, but he's got some maintenance issues as we get into the budget for the heating and air conditioning system on the jail. Those are time lined out, they've gotta be replaced, and you're talking about, I'd say at least $100,000 or $150,000 to replace those 4 or 6 units you got on that,
Absolutely.
on that
Well, we
building,
spent-
so we
We're
just,
spending it out of our general budget right now.
Just
We've
keep
already-
maintenance
We spent, what, $30,000 on
Yes.
repairs for AC
Our
units.
AC units this past year.
Like you said, we could bump that up on the splice, but that's gonna be out in the future.
we can probably, with Donnie's and their help, we can probably get them things, keep them operational until the splosh gets, if we can get the splosh passed, and then go ahead and put that in. We need to go ahead and make preparations, because we got to work on the splosh for the next, and go ahead and make that in preparation, because the building was moved in 2005, so the units are getting some age on them. I mean, you're talking about 16, 18, 16 years. Time the splosh gets around, it's gonna be about 18 years. If you can get approximately a 20-year life cycle out of these big commercial units, you're doing good, and there's some big units there. And so you're talking about, I'd say, how many units you got on it? Six on that building, if not more.
It's 6 or 8, I'm
Yeah.
almost positive. And
And
then
I
we
can't
also have all of
remember.
our laundry units
Yeah.
that are really expensive to replace
Yeah.
as
And
well.
then, I
And
mean,
kitchen
even
appliances.
things simple as hot water heaters.
Correct.
Those hot water
Hot water
heaters
heaters.
are thousands of dollars because of the size and the capacity.
Yeah.
And we've got probably 6 or 8 of those.
Yeah.
That we've
So
had.
it's up, the jail itself is up for some retrofitting, I call it. And so that needs to be integrated into the splosh as we go forward. And I'm saying that to say this is the fact that I understand that the sheriff's department has got some issues coming up, but we need to be a little proactive to the fact that maybe we can manipulate the splosh, for lack of a better term, to help pay that and not put it on the backs of the property owners of this county
Yeah, in the general
and
budget.
the general budget.
So that would be good.
So if we can come up with a plan as we go forward, and that's, I mean, the jail, even though everybody still considers it, especially in my age group, considers it the new jail that they moved in 2005, but it's getting time that we need to put some major bucks in it.
And you know, we're hearing that from like the library that had
Yeah.
the air conditioning go out and some of the older buildings, yeah.
So, as
So
we go.
we can work on that.
Mhm.
And then outside of repairs and maintenance, and again, I mean, that includes the vehicles and some other things. The insurance, again, jumped up a little bit, as well as the gas and oil. And that's the only other thing in that budget.
These new units that you're buying, though, in the energy efficiency, they're a little bit better than these older stocks, so it
Yes.
should level out a little bit, but what do you think?
We have spent this year, repairs and maintenance, over $28,000 just in AC repairs. That's not actually replacing them, that's just keeping them repaired. Auto parts, we spent, over 100,000 in repairs for the vehicles, and then, again, that continues.
So we just replaced the main transmission and an engine on the vehicle too. So that's a costly expense that comes out.
We also have had one of our washers and an oven go out over the jail. That was $18,000 with the washing machines and the oven.
Unbelievable.
But it's a 24/7 operating building, so.
Oh, yeah.
And you think you wash a lot of clothes, come over.
Yes.
I'll come help you.
At least you don't have to worry about getting the colors mixed up.
David washes mine, he says I get them mixed up.
All right, where are we at now? 3326. Y'all got any more questions on 3323 under UPD, CID, and CSU?
No.
Well, brings us down to 3326. Adult detention.
How many running now, Donnie?
Average inmate population right now is around 100, roughly. Obviously it goes over a little more at times, but, I think one of the big issues with us with the jail is, We are not housing the inmates like we were. I hated to see that happen, but, you know, Rob and I actually sat down and talked to him a little bit before we made that decision to send them back. But we had 2 and 3, you know, we were doing the transports to and from Sandy Springs. When it started out, we would go down and pick up those inmates and bring them back, and we could also do our other transport for the day. But it got to where the judge was requiring our guys, and again, it would take at least 2, would go down to Sandy Springs early in the morning, and we would sit there all day long, 2 and 3 days a week to pick up our inmates. So basically, we were being, you know, felt like we were being used as bailiffs, I guess, for the other courts. And I'm not knocking Sandy Springs. Sometimes maybe it was just the way things worked out. But either way, we were having to tie up those 2 employees at Sandy Springs all day on transport days.
And
And
that,
we were running Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So
that made it just not quite worth it.
when we were tying up those 2 on the road and the number of deputies that we were short, you know, we had to really make a tough decision on, you know, trying to cover the calls for service in the courts with those other staff members instead of having them sitting down at Sandy Springs. You
How
know,
much did that take out of your, what, Fred, you know how much that took off his revenue line when that happened?
It was 400.
530.
So, you know, that was a big hit.
But was that all profit, or did that consider that we had to feed them and that kind of thing?
That was just the revenue.
Just
That's what we-
revenue.
And we definitely would not be opposed to, you know, entering into another agreement either with Sandy Springs if they, you know, were able to, or another county, once we get our staffing and things squared away. You know, if we're able to, I definitely wouldn't mind trying to create some more revenue, but it's not in this budget. So again, looking at overtime increase due to the shortages, group insurance, FICA, retirement contributions, defined comp, our technical services, which is the upgrade in the computer system that we've discussed, repairs and maintenance is going up from 31,000 to 65,000. Again, we're looking at the numbers over the last 3 years and just trying to figure out on some of those big items. Supplies and materials, of course, our water and electricity are 2 areas that we continue year after year being short on. So we increase those line items to bring that up.
Tell me about that, upgrading the computers. I remember we talked about that.
Basically, we went from we're still using the Eagle system, which has been our records management system for the sheriff's office the last 25 years. Been very few updates to that system, and it's basically the same system we contracted with 25 years ago.
Okay.
We have switched over from the Eagle system over to Caliber, and which is the same system that y'all currently use in the 911 center. So tying the sheriff's office and all the other public safety agencies, including 911 together, is going to be a huge impact for us.
That's what I was trying to remember. I remembered that it was a benefit in that way, so.
It will also help us on some areas that we've seen in the last several years dealing with some pretty high liability areas. So when the deputies are dispatched, that information definitely goes from whatever the 911 operators key into their CAD system, they can see that. And then when the deputy answers the call, or they're trying to respond to the call, now they can actually see the address, they can pull up the mapping that the 911 center has, which will help us increase our, hopefully, response times a little bit. The deputies will have access to GCIC in their cars, so they can run the information and see real time what's going on, which is an officer safety issue. And then when the deputy answers the call, and then if he makes an arrest or she makes an arrest and transports him to the jail, all that information flows from the original call all the way through the system back into the jail. If we, say, had a call where somebody was threatening suicide, the deputies get out and they make an arrest on that because of domestic or simple battery. When they get them to the jail, they're going to be flagged at the jail as, you know, regardless of what the arrest was. As soon as they go in the system, the jail will be flagged and know that, you know, this guy had a potential suicide issue. And then if he comes back 6 months from now, he will still be flagged as a potential suicide risk. So will help us on that side.
And if y'all remember, I just think we put together back last year, the $117,695 from his technical services was hoping it was going to be paid out of the revenue that he would get from keeping inmates. So now we're to the point to where, does he have anything, is there any monies in the SPOS? I know he gets 4% of the SPOS revenues, but where's he at on that? And can this be part of that?
Well, he has a capital lease payment that has, for those cars.
Mm-hmm.
And that payment, I think, is around $38,000 a quarter. So he does have a little bit extra built up in his SPOS, but we have to leave enough in there to accommodate that payment. But now, the system that they're talking about, the communication system, the fire and EMS services also incorporated that system.
Correct.
And Sloan needed, I think his amount was around 70 to 80,000.
Right.
So what we've paid already, Sloan had 150,000 of his lost money that was to go to 911. So he used that for his communication software.
For Donnie's, for the sheriff's communication.
He used what he was buying to pay for his, and then he gave Donnie the balance of that 150, which paid, I think, around 70,000. So we did pay that much out of SPOS, and then the rest of it came out of the general fund.
And we also pulled about 50 out of our SPOS.
Yes, we did.
And then pulling 37,000 out of the jail fund, and then also we're pulling another nearly 20,000 out of the inmate funds. Because again, this is software that's going to be used for the jail and for the inmates.
So that leaves that balance of the 117,965, or is that for other things?
117 is what is the amount that will have to be paid on that system next year, during this budget year.
And then the maintenance fees will go up just a little bit from where we're at with the Eagle system, but not a whole lot.
So the 117 is just a one-time thing. So once after this year, it won't be a reoccurring thing. It's just
good.
And again, it'll also let us communicate with fire, EMS, and everybody's on the same
It's going to
system.
streamline it, and I think Jasper Police Department is actually looking at upgrading their system to the same thing, so everybody will be able to talk to each other.
Awesome.
But
That would really
it's
be awesome.
yeah. And all of the systems that we are currently incorporating with this new software system, they all talk to each other. So like you say, when someone goes into the system, it's going to flag all the systems. So, I mean, it's really a huge thing for the county.
Yeah.
So Colossus is the name of the communication system.
It was Interact, but they changed, it's the same company, I understand, they just changed their name.
It's
Same.
an incorporated
Same
name, but
people.
the software is called Caliber. Yeah, so it's like 3 different things. Same people there.
And we're actually finishing up with our second day of training or third day of training.
This is our third day.
So we're getting ready to really get that rolled out.
Our go live date is 12/3, so that's when we should be going live.
Your professional services, is that, what all does that encompass?
That is for our inmate medical
Oh,
and a couple of other smaller things that we have.
What, about 21,000 a month on inmate pay?
And you'll see on that, the repairs and maintenance as well has increased in 3326, and that's mainly due to the 3-year history that we have. And those numbers for the past 3 years and the money for being spent on repairs thus far. So until we start really replacing those, I think that that's going to be an ongoing issue.
And two, we came in for the last several years trying to really keep everything as low as we could and lowballed a lot of these numbers for the last several years. And, you know, last year we went over, a year before I think we were close, but I just did not want to come in and continue lowballing these numbers. Wanted to make sure that we give you guys a fair and accurate budget, and we can kind of work from there.
All right, any further?
There's a few, like on each one of them, there's a little bit of discrepancy in the FICA amounts. And when I went through and changed all those, corrected those, the increases 669, 262. I guess my only question is, on the salary line, you budgeted all the open positions?
Yes.
So, like in uniform patrol, if you budget all the open positions, you think you'll still need 105,000 in overtime? Or, because I know in the past when the positions were not filled, that's what made the overtime line
Right.
go. I mean,
Well, obviously, the overtime is, I mean, it costs us more to bring in somebody and pay them overtime than it does a deputy. So if we can fill these positions, then I would say our overtime can be reduced. If we can't fill the positions, then we can reduce some of the salary. My question is, how much of what do we reduce?
and that's what I was saying, you know,
Right.
you're putting like, kind of like the maximum on
Right,
both lines.
absolutely.
So that's really,
And I think that gives us a little wiggle room on the salaries and the overtime, trying to figure out a good happy medium there on that, but.
with this amount of increase and then the amount of decrease in revenue, that's 1,199,000. It's almost 1.2 million, so it's quite a.
That's a mill.
We gotta do something. What if we took out, maybe made 1/2 of the people that he's trying to hire, and then just do budget amendments if we have to, as those people get hired? Would that be, that would help?
That would
the
get him
bottom
people.
I get you those numbers, and we'll look at it a
6 or
little
7.
closer.
That might
Right.
help that bottom line
Right.
look better.
When you're talking about the amount of the increase, one thing that you have to keep in mind is, or you may have that figured differently on the SROs. Because 70% of that is paid back by the Board of Education, with the exception of the additional employee that we have included this year.
And how much would that include? Do you have an amount?
70% of 203,064 on the requested budget.
Yes, sorry.
70% of, 3350 is what he's looking at here. And you're looking at the salaries of 511100, 203,064 is requested budget for 2019.
I think it's 70% of the.
The overall budget for SRO. So the increase for the extra person is on average around $55,000.
And it's.
That's
and
included.
it's-
And that's
That's
included.
including benefits, that's including FICA. Yes, that is included in here. So basically what we did was just took that bottom number and took that 50,000, however much it was, out of it, and then used the 70% of the remaining balance that was on it.
Okay.
Yes.
So the 7%'s already been removed from this.
Yes,
Yes.
so the revenue back from the Board of Ed is 282,859.
Yep.
It's on, the revenue pages in the packet.
Which, if approved, would be a total increase of right at 500. Taking out the board's revenue.
You're factoring in the overall revenue, both revenues, the overall.
Yeah, the 154 and 282. Let's see, your revenue for resource officers this year is is 255. So that does increase about 27,000.
And I think we can get with Faye and take a look at those numbers with the overtime and the salaries and make
I
some
would,
adjustments on that.
Of course, it's just one of the first meetings, but if y'all would, if y'all can schedule some time along with Faye and her, and y'all just sit down and lay this stuff out. Because 1.1, for us to convince the public of Pickens County is going to be a hard pill for everybody to swallow. We need to really, if we can, all sit down together and really tweak this thing
Again,
in.
you say 1.1, which includes the revenues that
That we lost.
The
right?
decrease.
Yeah. If you gotta calculate the revenues that you lost plus what you're wanting for an increase is gonna be 1.1 million. Bottom line for next year, that we would have to, as three commissioners, would have to more or less have to come amongst ourselves and come up with an agreement that we're gonna raise the millage rate at least by 1 mil next year. I don't know about that. We need to really take a strong look and see what we can do to go forward with this budget. Maybe sit down with our financial group and see if we can work something out as we go forward and make it palatable for the taxpayers.
I agree, but also think that we need to start planning on working together more often and not just waiting on budget time to
That's
figure
correct.
out how we're going to make things work. Because, with the increase that we've asked for, again, outside of the $117,000 for the upgrade on the software and the computer system, it's things that we have no control over.
Yeah.
And again, we're more than willing to cut, but I can't cut employees, and I can't cut, the services that we've had. Our guys are doing everything that they can do to keep up, and our call volume, 37,000 calls this year. I mean, that's huge.
It is.
So, again, we're not coming in presenting you guys with this big increase and saying, well, this is what it's got to be. I'm asking that we work together and figure out a way to make it work for us and not have to cut, some of the services that we're trying to provide. And that we be able to, you're talking about the SPOS, if we had the SPOS now, a bigger portion of that, we wouldn't be asking for the increase that we're asking for. So, and again, we're not even talking about vehicles, or asking for vehicles. We asked for them last year, we cut them. We're looking at the increase that we've got to have because of the areas that we have no control over. I'm not even asking to address that at this time, but we've got to do something.
Would that number look like if you took out those 14 people's salary, maybe left 2 or 3 in, is that gonna be a very substantial number?
Well, what I put together, just using our personnel master that we had at the time, which was, I think I ran this October 2nd or something, using those figures, 2.5%, and accommodating for the overage and overtime line that we've had the past couple of years, it still comes up to over $400,000, the one that I proposed. I think it was 403 or something.
Did you?
And I thought that was maybe realistic.
But now, what you worked up, we actually went back and cut a part of that in certain line items.
It's
So,
the salaries is the huge difference that you have, so if we don't incorporate them in the beginning, we'll be over budget. Or you guys will have to do a budget amendment throughout the year at some point, so. I think
It's
it's
just
just,
400,000 number, include the loss of revenue from some expenses you add up to the 400.
No.
And if you,
That's the increase in revenue, so it'd still be, the net would still be almost a million.
even with the way you figured it, it would still be almost. I was thinking it was a lesser number.
Let's go ahead and get lined up as far as getting together and see what you come up with. Faith and be brainstorming there and just see what we come.
I was looking at I was comparing our personnel master to what you had. And, even the one that I worked on probably would need a little bit of tweaking if we had adjusted existing, because some of them were categorized like, Kay Blackwell, you had her in admin and she's on the personnel master in PD. You know, there's just some changes.
Yeah, I get it.
So that could make your, because that's where the expenditures are actually charged to during the year, wherever they are in the personnel master. So if you're budgeting on one place and they're in our system and in another function, then that would make the numbers off too. So we can look at that also.
So you're thinking they get together with Faye and see what happens,
Oh, yeah.
and we can
What do we
reconvene?
need, what do we need to come up with then? We need
What are we shooting for?
Well, I can tell you off the top of my head what we're shooting for, and I'm just gonna put it out there. To keep from having to raise the millage rate, we're gonna have to stay around $300,000. And that's a big increase in itself when you start talking to the public. But, you know, if we can make some adjustments, we can look at that, we can plan toward this floss. And we're hopefully, with you and Faye and the girls working together, we've come up with a plan to bring this thing forward. But I just don't, I think it's gonna be a tough road to hoe. You're trying to, you know, asking the public to come up with some more money next year.
I think it'd also be tough to ask the public to not understand that we're not gonna be running as many people out on the road. We're not, tell the judges that we're not gonna be able to have as many courts, and everything we do, and I shared with you the overall chart, and, you know, 93 people sounds like a lot until you start looking at having 6 in the school system. You're having, you know, 8 or 9 having worked in the courts, and, you know, the number that it takes to run the jails. I mean, we're only running 4 deputies on the road at a time right now. We'll do whatever we gotta do. And my commitment to y'all and to the community is, you know, we're willing to work, but we cannot cut personnel.
What are the 6 in the school? I didn't realize, what are their positions? What do they do?
They're certified deputies working in the schools. We've got Shane Paget and Kevin Roach is working at the high school.
And what do they do? Just patrol, traffic?
They do traffic, they do general security, they deal with your thefts, your fights, your vaping, your
Okay.
number, quite a bit that they're doing. And again, I'll be glad to send you some numbers and let you see exactly. They're working all the ball games, they're working, you know, we unfortunately, just like the courthouse, we're living in a time that we have to have deputies in our schools. Same with the courthouse. You know, I'd love to go back to what we used to do and not search people and scan them when they come in, but that's just not an option.
So then you have 2 at the high school and...
I have 2 at the high school. I've got one at the junior high. I've got one at the middle school, and I've got one that looks after the elementary schools.
And does the school system pay anything for that service?
They're paying 70% of the budget from what we're presenting today.
Okay, good.
You know, we're talking about, just little things like the courthouse, the scanning. I've had You know, we've scanned this year to date over 53,000 people coming in and out of the courthouse, which resulted in 459 weapons seized from people that was going into court. I know we just talk about the money when we're talking about the budget, but again, I'd be glad to share the numbers and see exactly what's going on and why we require the number of staff that we have. So,
That number's not increased though, how many years?
no, we have not increased staffing in 10 years. But our call volume's doubled, our arrest is doubled, everything else is, and again, I know I'll go back to what you said the other day is we have to do more with less. Well, we're doing a lot more today than we've ever done with a whole lot less. I mean, it's, you know, we just don't know how much more I can keep putting on the backs of the employees and expecting them to pull in their 3 12-hour shifts and then come back in and pull 1 or 2 more and pay them overtime because we don't have the staffing.
If you knew you were getting an increase in the SPLOST, would you be able to sort of get through until that time? You see what I'm asking, would you be able to make the next couple of years work?
We're going to have to when it comes to vehicles. I don't think that there's gonna be another option unless you incorporate it into the general budget for our vehicles, which is gonna be pushing it really, I mean, because we've got 25 vehicles that they're.
So there's no vehicles in this budget, all your vehicles are coming out of SPLOST right now anyway.
Absolutely.
And there's not going to be any money in SPLOST to buy any more vehicles.
So we've got to come up with some sort of replacement plan for vehicles and the building and all of the other capital issues that we have.
Do we know?
You've got one in that school resource budget, but you want to leave that one in there, correct?
Right.
Okay. What?
How much more money will they get in SPLOST for the rest of the SPLOST time?
I'll be honest, I can't remember exactly how much they did each.
I don't know why you can't keep up with all those numbers.
I know.
It's about $10,000 to $11,000 a month, isn't it?
It is. So we might get one car here out of it.
You might get one, yeah.
Yeah, because they still have to do that the capital lease,
Mhm.
because that will go through June of 2020.
Mhm.
That lease will
From the original 10 cars they got last year.
Which makes it hard because we don't have a contingency line item either anywhere in our budget. So if anything happens, it's kind of,
You have another snowstorm, another hurricane come through.
And that's a lot of our overtime. If we have storms or inclement weather, that's when a lot of the overtime comes into play.
And y'all the same way. I mean, you road department guys have to come in and work, and we all work very closely and do what we have to do, but
Well, we should sit down, get our financial people together, see if we come up with a plan, one way or the other. Any other questions? No? All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll be in contact very soon.
have you got any ideas on timeframe or what you want to do or how soon?
We need to do it pretty quickly, because we've got to
This is-
advertise this in November.
You let us know when we'll be here when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, we got meetings this afternoon, budget meetings this afternoon. We do today,
Are you available tomorrow? You think?
Maybe we can do it.
You available tomorrow?
Are you available in the morning?
I'll make sure I'm available.
Let's do it in the morning.
Okay.
About 9, is that okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you.
I'll give that back to you. Personnel.
What are the 6 in the school? I didn't realize, what are their positions? What do they do?
They're certified deputies working in the schools. We've got Shane Paget and Kevin Roach is working at the high school.
And what do they do? Just patrol, traffic?
They do traffic, they do general security, they deal with your thefts, your fights, your vaping, your
Okay.
number, I mean, quite a bit that they're doing. And again, I'll be glad to send you some numbers and let you see exactly. They're working all the ball games, they're working, you know, we unfortunately, just like the courthouse, we're living in a time that we have to have deputies in our schools. Same with the courthouse. You know, I'd love to go back to what we used to do and not search people and scan them when they come in, but that's just not an option.
So then you have 2 at the high school and,
Have 2 at the high school. I've got one at the junior high. I've got one at the middle school, and I've got one that looks after the elementary schools.
and does the school system pay anything for that
They're
service?
paying 70% of the budget from what we're presenting
Oh,
today.
okay, good.
You know, we're talking about, I mean, just little things like the courthouse, the scanning. I've had, you know, we've scanned this year to date over 53,000 people coming in and out of the courthouse,
Wow.
which resulted in 459 weapons seized from people that was going into court. I know we just talk about the money when we're talking about the budget, but again, I'd be glad to share the numbers and see exactly what's going on and why we require the number of staff that we have. So,
That number's not increased though, how many years?
no, we have not increased staffing in 10 years. But our call volume's doubled, our arrest is doubled, everything else is, and again, I know I'll go back to what you said the other day is we have to do more with less. Well, we're doing a lot more today than we've ever done with a whole lot less. I mean, it's, you know, we just don't know how much more I can keep putting on the backs of the employees and expecting them to pull in their 3 12-hour shifts and then come back in and pull 1 or 2 more and pay them overtime because we don't have the staffing.
If you knew you were getting an increase in the SPLOST, would you be able to sort of get through until that time? You see what I'm asking, would you be able to make the next couple of years work?
We're going to have to when it comes to vehicles. I don't think that there's gonna be another option unless you incorporate it into the general budget for our vehicles, which is gonna be pushing it really, I mean, because we've got 25 vehicles that they're.
So there's no vehicles in this budget, all your vehicles are coming out of SPLOST right now anyway.
Absolutely.
And there's not going to be any money in SPOS to buy any more vehicles.
So we've got to come up with some sort of replacement plan for vehicles and the building and all of the other capital issues that we have.
Do we know?
You've got one in that school resource budget, but you want to leave that one in there, correct?
Right.
Okay. What?
How much more money will they get in SPLOST for the rest of the SPLOST time?
I'll be honest, I can't remember exactly how much they do each.
I don't know why you can keep up with all those numbers in
I
here.
know.
It's about $10,000 to $11,000 a month, isn't it?
It is. So we might get one card here out of it.
You might get one, yeah.
Yeah, because they still have to do that the capital lease,
Mhm.
because that will go through June of 2020,
Mhm.
Okay.
that lease will end.
From the original 10 cards they got last year.
Which makes it hard because we don't have a contingency line item either anywhere in our budget. So if anything happens, it's kind of,
You have another snowstorm or another hurricane come through.
And that's a lot of our overtime. If we have storms or inclement weather, that's when a lot of the overtime comes into play.
And y'all the same way. I mean, you road department guys have to come in and work, and we all work very closely and do what we have to do, but
Well, we just need to sit down, get our financial people together, see if we can come up with a plan, one way or the other. Any other questions? No? All right. thank you very much. We'll be in contact very soon.
You got any ideas on timeframe or what you wanna do or how soon?
We want to do it pretty quickly, because we've got to advertise this in November.
You let us know when we'll be here when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, we got meetings this afternoon, budget meetings this afternoon, we do today, but.
You available tomorrow, anytime?
Maybe we can do it.
You available tomorrow?
Are you available in the morning?
Make sure I'm available.
Let's do it in the morning.
Okay.
Increases in salaries and the
Yeah,
benefits.
200%.
It
It is. I have done away with outside indexing. I brought it in, I changed computer vendors because of the issues I had last year,
Yeah.
and then turned around and crashed my server about 3 or 4 months ago.
The new vendor you got coming in?
No, the old one that was the nail in their coffin.
The who?
The new vendor didn't. The old vendor did crash my server,
Well,
and so I lost a few.
who was your old vendor?
Micropack, we've had them since I began in 90,
So,
I began in 96, so it was 98.
They're the ones that messed up that intangible.
They did. So I did away with them, but they did not offer indexing. So I'm doing that in-house. So the reason that, the increase is that I increased a ton as far as work. I got them stretched as far as stretching can be. And I'm also having to index the old stuff that's now being backed up. They don't even have a backup.
So you didn't add another one, you just put more work on it?
Put more work on what I've got, and then I'm asking for a part-time just because these girls have absolutely zero downtime.
you budget that in there?
Yeah.
After 20, well, not quite 20,000. Yeah,
There was a girl,
Okay.
talked to Shauna down in probate. She has a friend that is very qualified that wants part-time work.
Okay, because it'll have to be somebody that wants, part-time, 'cause I don't.
Yeah, this girl wants part-time.
Okay. Another thing that I have been doing, y'all know that my big thing is I'm taking care of the old records. I went to the Huguenot Society. I've got approved for they're giving me a grant for $1,000 for 2019. I get that, I get that probably in the next month or so. Also, I got an email yesterday, they are giving another place, the Haversham chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. They're going before their board and they're looking to give me money, scholarship, or whatever, a grant. And then yesterday I got an email from the author that I helped. He wrote the Civil War on Pickens County.
Mhm.
He's giving me the proceeds for his book.
Wow.
So I don't know, which is great, but I don't know what that'll be.
You
But
know, pass next
I
time.
mean,
Yeah, well, we got money in the bank.
That's right.
so I'll meet with them November 1st to get however amount that is. I don't know. And he's already given me 300. So, and I've still gotten it. So I'm trying to get money outside other than using county funds to take care of what should have been.
So he wrote a book on the history of the
Mhm.
county. What's his name?
His name is
Gerald Flincham?
Fletcham. I can't remember. He's great. He's done a lot for me.
Yeah, I've been sending a lot of records over the last 8, 9 years to Kennesaw State and having them archived down there. So I did a lot of mine. I did a lot of
Yeah, they are. I'm working with the Georgia Archives too. That's just a lot of work.
without them books that we already had reconditioned to put back in your vault downstairs that were already sealed in plastic.
No, that's something totally different.
Okay.
Those have got to be done eventually too. That's the next step. These are the ones I'm working on now are 18th century criminal records, and then I've got the
No, it'd be 19th century criminal record.
what I say.
18th century. That's
I mean
1700.
1800s.
That's Robin saying, yeah.
County wasn't incorporated in 1853.
You know what I mean.
Well, Jerry should have been there.
You should.
You look far better.
You know what I mean. But anyway, the real estate is already shipped off. It takes about 4 or 5 months for those to be done. I've already got a big bunch back, and I've got a big bunch, should be back at the end of November. But that's not gonna be taken out of county funds, that's money out accumulated through the Superior Court Clerk's authority, imaging agreement.
So the increase you're looking at is for part-time
It's just for
help?
part-time help, and that's it. And a 2.5% for my girls that I,
But her revenue though, projection for next year is 602,
Yeah,
602,000.
she pretty well got covered.
She's, that's a good job.
and I'm working on getting everything paperless, which will save on supplies, which will save
Sure.
on people. It's gonna take me a couple of years, but I'm working on it, so I'll get that cut down too. That's what all this big mess is. I am having to fork out a good bit of money at the moment to get new equipment. That's what I had to do yesterday, poor thing. I was like, help, I gotta have a credit card, but I would have to do it myself. I didn't expect to have that right now, but I think we're good though.
So she's pretty well nearly close to 0% balance. That's good. Thank you muchly.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Y'all guys have a good one.
You
Yeah,
too.
you too.
The increase looks like it's in the salary line.
And benefits, of course.
Yeah.
All of it goes with it.
I think there was a 2% increase in that, and then we had asked for a little bit more in the dues and fees and then supplies. So just an increase.
Salaries, did y'all do 2.5%?
I think, Ms. Fay, is that right?
Yes.
2.5?
And remember that this budget is, actually, we pay a third. Because we pay them all the expenses, and then we invoice the other 2 counties in the circuit every month. So we do have revenue coming back in this month.
Kind of, I guess just to give y'all an update of where we are, our office. Mike Parham retired at the end of July, and so I was appointed effective August 1st to replace him. So I'm the circuit public defender, which doesn't really make sense to anybody. I'm the chief public defender is what everybody typically says. We kind of shuffled around some of our personnel. We had 2 juvenile attorneys, and now what I did is when Fred Forsythe retired back in March, we hired P.J. Wilkie from around the area. He was a law clerk, and he is now the 3rd attorney down here in Pickens County.
And he furnishes food on Fridays?
I'm not sure.
Need to check on that.
Right.
Are your offices here in Pickens?
My main office is up in LJ, where it's been.
Okay.
The suite that we've got is great, but we really needed the 3 attorneys here, and so I've got him doing that. We've got an open position that's a county paid position that was created when Mike left and I stepped up into his position that I got some resumes for and look to try to fill that before the end of the year. But it would,
It's included in this budget.
right. So it would not be an increase. They would come in at what we have available left in the budget.
Has your caseload increased this year or what?
I think it's gone up a little bit. I didn't check the numbers.
Yeah.
Pickens still has, we kind of look at things with our 3 counties. Pickens has 50% of all of our cases, just because it's bigger down here. So.
In your a lot of the cases going from the Superior Court down to magistrate probate, so I'm assuming y'all are taking up some of that defendants that are in the probate magistrate.
We do handle the magistrate court. Probate has, Judge Lindsay's got his own public defender that he provides in probate court, but we still handle magistrate court and the Superior Court things.
So a judge handles his own.
They've got a contract negotiation with, I can't remember who it
Is it David Myers?
I just thought it was odd, that part I'm not worried, I just thought it was odd that the judge would be furnishing his own public defender.
Is that John Wood?
is. It may be John Wood. I'm not sure.
He's his contract.
Right. It was Jenny Galligan for a while, but that's been several years back.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are from our perspective. You know, for what it's worth, we have always had a good relationship with you guys in particular, and appreciate the way that it's been, and hope that as I'm in the circuit public defender position that we can continue that. I appreciate y'all's willingness and understanding.
And it seems to be running smooth now from Mike to Clint. We haven't had really any hiccups, and I think once we hire that other attorney, it's gonna take a lot of caseload off of him. He can concentrate more on public defender stuff. So it's been smooth.
Yeah, I'm thankful for what Mike did to do everything he could to make it as smooth a transition as we can.
What's he up to now? Is he just being retired?
Well, the 31st was his last day, so he flew out at 9 p.m. and spent 3 weeks in Africa doing some mission work in Kenya and in Ghana. The church that he's involved with up there they've got a long-term mission project with an orphanage over in Ghana.
He's been to California, right?
Yeah, he's been to Philly,
Right. Yeah. I think he told Romy, our other admin, they go to church together. He didn't know where he ever had time to work.
So he stayed busy.
Yeah, he is.
On the very last page of his section is the worksheet for the other two counties. So we do get back new revenue. We do have the 5% administration fee. It would charge them. Yeah. And they're fine with that. Don't you think
We
she
agree.
is?
Yes, ma'am.
Much better.
It looks good.
Sure. No problem.
All right, great.
Thank y'all for coming out.
Absolutely.
Congrats on the new facility.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot more email. Good to see you.
All right, so we are, all employees get a 2.5% raise, that's across the board?
Do y'all do that every
Cost of
year?
living.
We try.
You try to do
We did it back when we were going through the Great Depression here. We had to, we missed 1 or 2 years there. But we tried to give them at least 2.5%, because at that time, if y'all remember, every time you turn around, insurance was shooting up, insurance was shooting up, insurance was shooting up. And then they wind up bringing home less for the next year. So we tried our best to give them at least 2.5%. And,
Well, it's hard on the road department too, see, everybody and their brother's hunting a truck driver.
yeah.
And we're trying to get them to go and get the CDLs done, where we could pay them a little more. But it's still not up, we're probably $2.50, $3
See, we went to.
higher.
It in the water department, if y'all remember, over the last few years, we went from 38 in the road department to right now we got 18. And we're looking at, well, you would think, but with there again, we're trying to cut corners, trying to make ends meet, trying to make money go further. I know it sounds crazy, but we set records this year. We paved 31 miles of road this year. That's a record for Pickens County. They cut up over 300 trees, just
I
general.
just wonder what 20 more employees would have been doing
Good question.
in 2005.
But they're equipped good too.
Equipment now.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we're buying better equipment with
And that's
less.
cheaper than,
You hire an employee, and it's just not the fact that you pay them $10.35 an hour or $15 an hour. It's all the benefits and the taxes and the workman's comp insurance you have to pay to make it work. So there again, I know it's an old cliche, but you try to do more with less. That way, the people that you have, you can pay them a little more and buy better equipment for them to operate. But throwing money at a problem will come to bite you in the end eventually, because it's got to come to a head. It takes management.
So we'll be here at 9? Are we invited?
Well, I think they're gonna be one-on-one in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not privy to
But
that.
we'll get back for the recap and we can let them know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So you looking for next week to be the meeting to
I am.
revisit?
Yeah.
I am, because we need to keep this going. We're proud of everybody. Everybody stayed pretty well within their budget. Some of them dropped their budget again.
So the sheriff was the only increase? Is
There
that
were some
Not
small
big.
increases.
a little?
But by comparison,
And
everything
then-
else, what, 100,000, 200,000,
The next biggest
something like
one,
that?
Lower
less.
than that, probably.
Lower. I think the next biggest one was the district attorney, probably.
Yeah.
It wasn't that much.
It like 7% increase, but you gotta remember 7% increase was, for them was like, what, $11,000?
Yeah.
I
something
mean,
like
it wasn't that.
What did she need an increase for? Or the,
What did she say? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't employees.
It was state employees.
Yeah.
5%.
The state
5% state employees that
Plus
they're,
the
that we have to be reimbursed on.
Um,
State offers more benefits, so if you're actually fortunate enough to be a state employee, you get a little more benefits than what a regular county employee does. So it does affect the budget to that point.